What's up, YouTube? How's everybody doing? It's your boy Reg in the building, and the album I'm about to review for you guys today is The Doors with their third studio album, "Waiting for the Sun," released in 1968 on Elektra Records. Singles albums known for are "The Unknown Soldier" and "Hello, I Love You," and the producers include Paul A. Rothchild. Now, you guys should know who The Doors is by now. I've already discussed their first two albums. And so now I'm talking about the third album. The third album. Okay, so after the release of Strange Days, pretty much they were they're getting much more known for like their infamy as much as their music, and not a lot of this kind of happened with the fact that while they were about to perform at New Haven, Jim was messing with this like female fan and shit like that, and the cop was trying to tell him, he had to clear away from the area. Jim was trying to say, he was like the lead singer, and the cop didn't want to hear it, and they ended up arguing, and the cop basically sprayed mace at Jim and a girl, and so Jim had to get himself together before the concert, which of course started late, and so Jim was like provoking the cop on stage and stuff like that. Jim was provoking the cop on stage, and all of a sudden, the cops later on arrested Jim Morrison, but at the same time, the charges would later on be dropped. And that was like the least of the problems, because around the same time too, Jim Morrison, he was getting dependent on alcohol and stuff like that, and this kind of like this as well as the label kind of interfering with the project, the label and Paul A. Rothchild to begin with, because the fact that originally this album was not supposed to have been what it was, because the fact, because of the way how they were supposed to have Celebration of the Lizard as the second side all by itself. And if you guys are a Doors fan as much as I am, you guys should know about Celebration of the Lizard. But I'm gonna talk more about Celebration of the Lizard when the time comes. I'm gonna dedicate a whole video, so expect that when 2020 hits. And so they pretty much said they can't do Celebration of the Lizard because it will not be commercial enough. And only one song made it from Celebration of the Lizard, which was "Not to Touch the Earth." And they definitely had to write like a few more filler material, and songs like "Waiting for the Sun," which was on the what's the album, Morrison Hotel album back in 1970. So yeah, so stay tuned when I talk about that. And trouble also came when John Densmore, the drummer, he actually walked out during the session because he just couldn't work around like Morrison and stuff like that. He was just getting frustrated working with them. And when the Doors came out with their 1987 box set, he was quoting on saying, maybe I was trying to say to Jim, don't be so self-destructive, unquote. So, yeah, man. And the crazy thing about this album was this was actually the only number one album on the charts and stuff like that. So I found that very interesting. Alright, so yeah, so that's all I have to say about the album. This is the album cover right here. Definitely has them like chilling, like in, I want to say, like some field and whatnot. Is everyone just chilling? I like that album picture. And so this one, you see like the Celebration of the Lizard, and they actually have like the whole poem of Celebration of the Lizard right here. So I found that to be very interesting. And so yeah, I'm gonna show y'all the vinyl. And this is what the vinyl looks like and shit. So yeah. Alright. So 11 songs. You guys should know what I'm about to do. Track number 1, "Hello, I Love You." That's like one of my all-time favorite Doors songs to this day. And one thing I loved about that song was just the very dope feel-good beat and shit like that. Jim actually, this was actually one of the earliest demos he has done, alongside Moonlight Drive. And so this song was written when Jim came he attracted this black girl that was walking in the fucking beach and shit like that. So, and a lot of fans at this time kind of consider this like a sellout song to the top 40, which I'm gonna talk more about that at the end of the review and shit like that, because you can tell like it was a lot more. It was a lot more radio friendly compared to like the other songs, like Break Onto the Other Side and Love Me Two Times. And there's like a lot of controversy when it came to this song because of the fact that the song very much sounds similar to the Kinks' All Day and All of the Night. You guys should know who the Kinks are. Very influential British rock band, and they actually had to pay royalties um, to Ray Davies because Ray Davies was the one who wrote the song, wrote the riff to that song. But Ray, he pretty much not I mean like yeah, Ray Ray from the Doors actually, he pretty much said that they were much more influenced by the Cream Sunshine of Your Love and stuff like that. So yeah, man, and I can pretty much see it too, more with Sunshine of Your Love than All Day and All Night. But at the same time, I can see this where people can see it sounds similar, but yeah, it is what it is. Track number 2, Love Street. This was another pretty interesting, smooth song right here. Um, yeah, man, Love Street, very smooth, very chill song and shit like that. Love the beat to this track. It was pretty much written about the Laurel Canyon and California. This was the spot that Jim Morrison lived with his girlfriend at the time, Pam Morrison and shit like that. Yeah, very dope track, Love Street. And then next track we got is Not to Touch the Earth, which, like I mentioned, was the only song that was originally part of the celebration of the lizard and stuff like that. Um, yes, Not to Touch the Earth, very dope cinematic track right here. Um, but in my opinion, I pretty much like the live version of the track more. I just felt like the live version of the track, you can just feel Jim's energy a lot more and shit like that. I love the lines when he says, "Dead president's corpse, dead president corpse in the fuck, what is it? Dead president corpse in the driver's car and shit like that. The engine runs on glue and tar. Come on along, not going very far to the east to meet the Cesar." Like, and that was a very crazy line because it was referring to John F. Kennedy being shot and shit like that. Rest in peace to John F. Kennedy. A very crazy line and shit. And yeah, Not to Touch the Earth, very dope track. Love the organ in the track, of course, by Ray. Yeah, man, what can I say? And then next track we got a Summer's Almost Gone, which in my opinion is the best track off this album. Um, Such a very mysterious kind of like somber track. And one thing I got from the track Summer's Almost Gone is like, when you're young, you have that feeling like of summer vacation being like the time of freedom. You don't have to be in school, don't have to work a lot of stuff like that. You can just hang out with your friends. Every day was like an adventure and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? Wait till you grow up, but that's another story for a different day. But yeah, man, Summer's Almost Gone. Very dope track right here. I love the line when he says, "Morning found us calmly unaware. Noon burned gold into our hair. At night we swim the laughing sea when summer's gone." And then they had that, like that piano break, that, ooh, that shit right there go hard, man. Yeah, Summer's Almost Gone. Definitely a dope, underrated track from the Doors. Track number 5, Wintertime Love. Yeah, this was a pretty short song, not even reaching 2 minutes exactly. It's an okay song. You can tell it's pretty much a filler track. It's kind of funny, interesting how they have a song called Wintertime Love right after Summer's Almost Gone and shit. Yeah, so that was a very interesting track, Wintertime Love. Yeah. Not really one of my favorites though, but then we get into The Unknown Soldier, which that song right there was a very controversial song because the fact it was talking about the Vietnam War, and it was so controversial that a lot of radio stations refused to play this track and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? And Jim Morrison was pretty much talking about how the Vietnam War, how his reactions to it, and how it came across. It came across like the media as well too. So yeah, that was a very dope track and shit like that. And the interesting thing about this song right here was the fact that when the military drums and the sound effect they use on this song, that the way that they reproduced that sound on stage was that, you know, when Krieger was playing like the guitar, he would point at the car at Jim Morrison like a rifle, and John Densmore would drop a drum reverb to make a loud pop sound. And when that loud pop sound would happen, Jim Morrison would just drop down to the fucking floor and shit like that. Like that's just how fucking cinematic, you know, they were and shit. So yeah, that was a very dope track. The Unknown Soldier, one of one of the most political tracks I would say. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna get some water. My throat's a little dry. Mm. Good H2O, but yeah, man. And mind you, like I had to do this review again because I have to get like a new software for my webcam. Well, I'm trying out the software on my computer right now, but it wasn't picking up the sound and shit. So I was like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. But so my throat kind of sounds a little hoarse right now. Just mind you. Um, next track, Spanish Caravan. Yeah, this is a song that Robbie wrote the majority of the lyrics to, and I want to say like his guitar playing makes the song to the fullest and shit like that. Yeah, he stole the show when it came to this track. Yeah, Spanish Caravan was a pretty much a very dope track. Um, Pretty much a dope track and shit like that. Um, and it's kind of interesting because in an interview Robbie Krieger did and shit like that, he said that the band was sued because they borrowed like a tradition. They borrowed some lines from a traditional Spanish song and shit like that. And it wasn't even that much of a heavy lawsuit, but still, it was kind of interesting. But Spanish Caravan, very dope track. Track number two, we got is My Wild Love. Um, this was a very unique song when it came to the Doors because it has a very heavy Native American influence, you know, with the drums and the hand claps and whatnot. And it tells a story about how this wild love is riding off into a desert. You know, he's going on like this soul searching journey and shit where he has to encounter the devil and stuff like that. Yeah, very dope track. And this is what really set the Doors apart from a lot of people, just the influence that they took from Indian, Native Americans, you know, Spanish music. A lot of people want to credit like George Harrison, the Beatles, for introducing Indian music into like psychedelic and shit like that. You know, when it came to like the Sgt. Pepper album, but you know, people also got to give credit to the Doors as well too. You know what I'm saying? But it is what it is. It is what it is on that. So, My Wild Love, definitely a dope track. Track number 9, We Could Be So Good Together. Um, We Could Be So Good Together was originally on the Strange Days album, and you can definitely tell just by like the sound and quality wise of that track and shit like that. So yeah, man, this is pretty much a very dope track. Not really one of my favorites, but it's pretty good in its own right and shit. Next track, Yes the River Knows. Yes the River Knows is another underrated track when it came to the Doors. This track was very underrated, and I like the fact how you can definitely tell Jim's chemistry, Ray and Jim's chemistry at its prime, especially when Jim's voice meshes well with Ray's piano playing and shit like that. So I feel like this song was talking about how one has medicated itself with suicide and shit like that. And it's very interesting because the fact that Robbie, of course, he wrote the majority of the lines and shit like that. And there's even one line that was very in particular, where it's talking about breathe underwater till the end. Another line, I promised I would drown myself in mystic heated wine. Self medicating yourself with alcohol. Like people who are suicidal like to do and shit. So, and the last track off the album, 5 to 1. Yes, this is another classic track. This is pretty much like my second favorite track off this album. And one thing I loved about this track was just how cinematic it was. It was a very dark track where it's talking about another song like talking about Vietnam. 5 to 1, like the ratio being 5 to 1, like whites to black, young to old, and shit like that, or the amount of Vietnamese soldiers in Vietnam. And all of my Jay-Z fans should definitely know about this track right there. I'm not gonna say what song, but y'all should definitely know. There's some lines where they said the old get old and the young get stronger. May take a week and it may take longer. We got the guns, but we got the numbers. Gonna win, yeah, we're taking over. Come on! Dun 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 dun. Like that shit right there is very dope track. Just I love how iconic this song was. I love how dark and moody. This is definitely one of the Doors' most crowning achievements in my opinion. And shit. And that's all of the time for this album. Okay, so when you guys should know when it comes to the Doors, I pretty much love all of their albums. But if I was to say which one kind of had the pleasure of slightly disappointing me, it will be this one. And this might sound like a surprise because of all the good things I've said about this album, but I just definitely feel like it does have a share of filler too. But I don't really blame the Doors pretty much. I just blame most of the label because the way I see it, the first 4 tracks are just solid, dope, nice way to play it up without skipping a track. But then once we get to Wintertime Love, that's when it kind of gets a little shaky and shit. Kind of gets a little hit or miss after. Kind of makes you think like, what would happen if they really did put Celebration of the Lizard, as side 2. And it's very interesting because this album came out like a year prior to the Beatles' Abbey Road. And you guys definitely should know that the second side of Abbey Road, it has that whole melody and shit, that melody or medley or whatever. So yeah, I just found it interesting how, like, if they would have done, like, what would happen if they would have done something like this on this album. But altogether, this is a very dope album because I felt like instrumentation there was a lot more tighter and a lot more looser. But here's the thing with this album too. A lot of people were kind of getting mad at the fact that this album was not as dark as the first 2 albums like Self-Titled and Strange Days. Because this album has like a lot more softer. It has a more of like a psychedelic feel to it and shit. You know what I'm saying? Like with songs like "Hello, I Love You," um, "Summer's Almost Gone" and shit like that. But then you still have that traditional Doors sound, like 5 to 1, "Not to Touch the Earth," of course. You know what I'm saying? And around the late '60s, a lot of people, psychedelic acts, or a lot of already established bands was incorporating psychedelic in their music. With the Sgt. Pepper album from the Beatles. Jefferson Airplane came out with like the Serial Serialistic Pillow album. Then of course you had Pink Floyd came out with the Popular Gates of the Dawn album and shit. So yeah, it was like a lot of psychedelic albums, and even though the Doors was considered like one of the forerunners of that genre and shit like that, you pretty much say they almost got lost in the shuffle, but this was still like a number one album and stuff. You know what I'm saying? So they was considered like sellouts at this time too, and I know people want to say that the Soft Parade is like the worst album, but I've got like a lot of interesting things to say about the album too. So, with that being said, this is the Doors, "Waiting for the Sun," and last year this album was re-released for the 50th anniversary special and shit. So, and it's interesting because it has like live tracks, and it has like another disc where it's like a rougher mix of the album and stuff too. So, make sure y'all check that out. With that being said, this is your boy Reg here. Stay tuned for more. Make sure you click that subscribe button, like button. Peace.